and welcome everybody to our webinar today, which is on curating digital content for your classroom. We're really excited to have 4 great presenters on the call today who have a lot of varied experiences with curating digital content. So we're happy to have them, and we'll get started with that content in just a few minutes. But first, I've got to do a few little housekeeping things. The first thing is that hopefully you all see the chat box on the right side of your screen. The directions are a little bit different from what I have written on the screen. Our system changed recently, and I've not updated that message. So you should see the chat box on the right side of your screen. If you don't, then look up at the little icon tools at the top right, and one should say chat, and please open that box. That is how we communicate throughout the webinar. Everybody should be muted except for our presenters, and we would ask you all to stay muted throughout the call. That reduces background noise and also just helps us to concentrate more on what our presenters are saying. So please use that chat box to ask questions, to make comments, to just share with other participants. This is, it's kind of a one-way presentation. We've got people who are sharing with you, but we really want to hear what you guys have to say. You guys are you're living and breathing this every day, so you have different experiences, and we want to know what is working for you guys, what ideas you have, but also please ask questions of our presenters and of your fellow participants. So just really quickly, we've got, and one thing about using the chat box, it defaults to only send messages to me. So when you put a message in that chat box, please make sure that in the drop-down next to send to that you select everyone. That way everybody in the group sees your message because most of them are going to be directed at the group, not just at me. So make sure you select that when you share messages. So just really quickly, I wanted to make sure that you guys know that we have a lot of professional development opportunities coming out of the Office of eLearning. One is our book club. We just finished our fall book club, but we will be beginning another one after the first of the year, probably in early February, and we will be announcing that book very soon. We also, I don't have dates scheduled for upcoming webinars, but I am working on those. And 2 topics that we're looking at are Makerspaces and SketchUp Pro. Again, watch social media, watch our website for announcements about both of these professional development opportunities. A great way to connect with other educators around the state, and also you get professional development, or you get PGP points. So I think everybody is happy about opportunities to get their points for license renewal. The last thing that I have listed here is our Twitter hashtag. You can connect with the Office of eLearning. We are at INELearn, but also utilize this INELearn hashtag. Another great way, we've got thousands of people who are following us on Facebook, and many more than that who are utilizing this hashtag. People in the state, and we even have people from out of the state utilizing that. So just a great way to connect with other educators. We also have INELearn Twitter chats each Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. This week our topic is digital addiction, which we will be tweeting live from the HEC conference. And speaking of the HEC conference, if you will be at the HEC conference this week, we will also, all of the members of the eLearning team will be at the HEC conference doing sessions and also at a booth in the vendor hall. So attend one of our sessions. We've got a few on Friday that we'll be involved in, and then we will be at the table. We would love to meet you and chat with you while you're there enjoying some professional development time. So now we are ready to jump into our presentation, and I am going to first introduce Molly Yoel, who is an educator from Danville Schools, who we have been working with for, gosh, Molly, now the past 2 years. on digital content curation, and she's been a wonderful little addition to our team. And I'm going to pass it on to Molly, and she will introduce our other presenters today.
Thanks, Mary. Well, I will forewarn, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I will forewarn you that I am at home with both of my children, so if you hear someone run in, and they need to use the bathroom or they need a snack, please excuse that because that might happen, although hopefully they're occupied. So I am Molly Yule, and I am a classroom teacher, as Mary said, and I work at Danville. I'm a high school English teacher, and then I also work with the Office of eLearning team in the area of digital content curation, and I have been doing that. This is my third school year now, so pretty awesome to work with Mary and her team and other folks such as our presenters today. I have met Amanda Hoagland from Carmel Clay along the way, along with Rachel Porter from Southwest Park, and I've worked with Jeff Fisher this last year as well, and he's from East Porter. And the ladies are going to talk to you about how their districts specifically are moving content out of my big campus into other spaces for their teachers to use. And Jeff is an expert on copyright and everything that falls into that bucket, and he's going to talk to you about that towards the end. But before I hand it over to them, I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of kind of what our office does to support Indiana teachers around this topic of digital content curation. This is our third school year that we have been involved around this topic and trying to provide free resources to our Indiana teachers. It started off a couple school years ago with a grant that we gave to 7 school districts, and they took that money and they trained their teachers and they gave their teachers time to curate whole lessons around the Indiana standards, and we shared those out. Last year we shifted our focus a little bit, and we have had about 50-plus Indiana classroom teachers come together in the areas of math, science, ELA, and social studies, and they started kind of filling in the holes and the writing, I guess, curating lessons around standards that hadn't been covered from the past year in the grant program, and started to focus on whole lessons around those standards that still didn't have any examples of what quality content looks like. And then this year we've actually decided to shift our focus a little bit, and instead of focusing on curating whole lessons for teachers to see as examples and take and use in their classrooms, we're hoping everyone's kind of getting comfortable with that process. And this year we're going to focus on just vetting resources, all sorts of resources around the standards, and providing those to our teachers just to help save time and say, we've watched this video, we've done this tutorial, we have looked at this site, we've taken this online quiz, and these are all quality, resources that you can take and use in your classroom. So that's where our focus is at this year. We do have all of the lessons that have been curated over the last 2 years available for teachers to see and use, and I will share that link with you in just a moment. And then just kind of a FYI on what we're looking for in the future to share these kind of learning objects that we're going to vet for teachers. We are looking to create a database, and we're actually hoping to partner with Indiana University. We have a relationship with a professor there and their School of Education, and we're hoping to work with them and create a database that you as an Indiana teacher could use for free, and you could go and search by standard or by keyword or topic or whatever, and all the resources that we've vetted and attached to that standard or that keyword would pop up. And so hopefully that would save you some time instead of just Googling The Great Gatsby and having pages and pages and pages of everything that's tagged with that. We would be able to condense that Google search for you and maybe give you just 5 quality resources around that topic as an example. So that's kind of what we're working on currently and what we're looking toward over the next year or so with regard to sharing is that database. So if you ever have questions about how you can find content or where we share our stuff, feel free to contact me. And if you or any of your colleagues are ever interested in helping us along with our vetting in this cohort that we're supporting, feel free to reach out and see if there's an opportunity for you to participate as well. All right, so with all that being said, let's get to the good stuff, because I'm sure a lot of you want to know how other districts are getting their content out of My Big Campus and into other areas for their teachers to use. So I think Amanda Hoagland from Carmel Clay is up first, and she's going to talk about how her district is using Google Sites, I believe. So, Amanda?
Yes, hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me tonight. This is actually a continuation of my work through Southern Hancock Schools, and I've recently switched districts. And during that time of the announcement of My Big Campus moving on, we were trying to determine some best ways to move all of our bundles and our content over. We tried copying and pasting. We found out that that was very time-consuming, whether we were copying and pasting into Word documents or PowerPoints. That was a lot of work on the teacher's end. We also just tried common cartridge export tools that were given to us by My Big Campus and tried to incorporate those and import those into other learning management systems, and it just really mixed up the format of what our original bundles looked like. And we loved how our bundles looked, and we wanted to keep that format as much as possible. So we found a good solution, and it's Google Sites. So I'd like to start the conversation tonight with why Google Sites. And besides it being a good option in Google Apps for Education, many schools have it, it's been around for a long time, we also found that it includes an HTML editor inside of Google Sites. Now this is unique to Google Sites. Google Docs does not have it. So Google Sites was a good solution. Why we would decide to use HTML and to copy and paste code, which I'll talk more about in just a little bit, is that it copied our content over in one piece, and it kept our format almost identical. Now you'll see in parentheses on the slide here that some resources that you carry over using HTML code, that those resources will sometimes link back to the My Big Campus site. So if you're trying this process, and I'm sharing some tutorials with you here in just a little bit on how you can go through this process, just check your links and make sure that all of your links work the way that you want them to once you copy and paste your code over into Google Sites. Also, what we found is that when we would copy and paste over from My Big Campus, that it would not embed YouTube videos like we had hoped. The YouTube videos were not showing up when you use that method. So using HTML code actually embeds your YouTube videos right into the site for you. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. So how do you get started? Well, the first thing I would think about is your organization of your content. This goes for any site that you begin to make. You'll want to think about how you want your content to be displayed. So as you're making a Google site, you would want to decide if you want to make a site that is going to house just science bundles or just your language bundles or just your math bundles if you're an elementary teacher, or if you would want to have a site that you are going to keep all of your bundles inside. If you do that, you will see that I've really copied one over for you so you can see what the screenshot looks like when I carried over a bundle using HTML code. That's what it looks like on the left side of your screen. And this was a Gummy Bear Lab that I copied over. It was a bundle, and still is a bundle, a published bundle in My Big Campus. And then what that used to look like, or still currently does look like, inside of My Big Campus is there on the right. So what I've pointed out to you on the Google site is that you can create a page for each of your individual bundles. And then what that will do is it will create in Google Sites, it will create a navigation bar inside your Google site that will allow you to navigate to any site that you embed the code into. All right, so hopefully that gives you some ideas on the organization of content. Next slide, please. Now, let's talk about this process. A lot of teachers, I wouldn't say a lot, but I'd say some teachers get really nervous when you mention coding because that's something a lot of us have not had a lot of experience with, and it's something that you hear about a lot, along with computational thinking. So this is a great thing for teachers to have some background in, not only if you are going to learn this for yourself and maybe teach your students a little bit about it, or whether you are someone who is in charge of professional development and you want your teachers to learn how to use code, then this is a great way to start. So here is a little quick explanation of the process and how you can use HTML code to transfer your bundles over to Google Sites. Or you can actually take the HTML code for any of your bundles and you could put that into any HTML editor, not just Google Sites, but any website or any learning management system that allows you to do so. So the first thing that you would do is, in number one, you would find the HTML code for any website, any bundle. This works with anything inside of the browser of your choice, and each browser has a little bit of a different direction on that. In Chrome, you would use the shortcut key, for example, Control-U. Number two, you would then take that code that you've displayed and you copy it and you paste it into the HTML editor inside of Google Sites. You'll see on the navigation bar inside of a Google Sites page, there's a button that allows you to embed code, and it's an HTML button. Finally, number three, this is a really great tip. When you have copied and pasted your Google site and you click Save, you'll be able to see what your Google site looks like and what the bundle was and how it transferred over. You may have to make just some regular editing adjustments inside of the editor, and you'll be able to see that transfer and what it looks like once you do the process and you try it. But once you've done that, you'll definitely want to complete process number three, which is to allow embedding inside of Google Sites. This allows you to take your Google site and use it and embed it into other sites like a learning management system, such as Canvas. So to do that, you would, inside a Google site, you would go to the gear icon, Manage Site, and Allow Embedding. And you can see it there in the middle of your screen. It's a checkbox under Security. And then finally, you can take your URL address of your site, of your copied bundle, and then use that inside of any learning management system. But then you would have all of your bundles saved inside of a Google site for you to use now or later. Okay, last slide, please. Thank you. All right, so I wanted to share with you some tutorials that I've used with some of our teachers. This tutorial gives you a step-by-step process. It's a more detailed process than what I've explained to you today, but I did want to highlight how easy it is to learn code. You can definitely learn code, and just that copy and paste process is a great way to start. The tutorials that I've listed here is at that shortened URL address. I think it's also inside of the chat box. I think it's been shared out. And what that's going to give you are videos and screenshots as well as written directions so that you too can complete this process either for yourself in your classroom or with your colleagues. So I'm going to hand it back over to Molly. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact me, and I will be happy to help answer any questions that you might have.
Great. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And she'll make sure to get that shortened URL out to everybody so you can see that and use it. And then Mary also said that if you'd like, she can send the PowerPoint to each of you. That way you can have those screenshots and have the whole presentation. So, all right, Rachel Porter from Southwest Park is up next. Ready, Rach?
Thank you, Molly. I'm here.
Thank you.
As Molly said, I'm from Southwest Park Community Schools, and we were also part of the digital content cohort in its original format. And as part of that, our teachers created a little over 300 full lesson bundles in My Big Campus, and it spanned all grade levels in almost every content area. So when we got the news that we were going to lose our beloved LMS, The first thought on most teachers' minds was, of course, what about our bundles? So I spent quite a bit of time exploring options, and I looked at lots of different things, including Google Sites, as Amanda just presented to you. But in the end, I decided on 2 different platforms that I would show our teacher and help them transfer their content to. Just felt like these were the best options for our particular content and for our particular staff, and that's BlendSpace and Nearpod. So I'm going to show you both of those platforms. They're both basically interactive slideshows that allow you to include a large variety of content, much like what we were doing with our My Big Campus bundles. And neither of them have the option of being able to export and then import from My Big Campus into their platform. So we really are kind of recreating, but it goes so much faster because we've already done what takes the most time, which is going out and finding the resources. So we're really just, doing a lot of copy pasting into the new platform. And once you've done 1 or 2, it goes extremely fast. So just a little bit about each one. BlendSpace is completely free and super easy to use. Most people don't really need much training at all on BlendSpace. Nearpod is a little bit more involved because it has some more features, which I'll get into a little bit of detail on. There is a free version of Nearpod, but we pretty quickly made the decision that our teachers who wanted that option would benefit from using the full paid subscription service, so we did do that. It's fairly inexpensive as far as things like that go. So I'm just going to show you a glimpse of what our bundles look like in each platform, what the options are with each of these tools, and how we got our content from one place to the other. So Mary, you can go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to start with BlendSpace. Madeline Gilkison, I think is how you say her name. She's from Franklin Township. She was kind enough to create a template based on the original one we had for My Big Campus that shows headers or separation slides for each of the different areas of our lesson format that we had developed. So we have a great starting place, and we just make a duplicate of that template, and then we can start dragging and dropping in our content. It's fairly simple process to do. BlendSpace allows you to include all the things that you see over on the right side of the screen, which covers just about everything that we had in our My Big Campus lessons. The only thing that I have found that we were really lacking was not being able to add just simple text. Often our teachers would put descriptions of offline activities or instructions for students to follow in their bundle, and there wasn't a great way quickly to create a text slide in BlendSpace, but we found a great workaround. We just do a simple copy and paste from the bundle into a Google Doc, just that text section, and then that Google Doc can very easily be added into the BlendSpace. It's super quick to connect your Google account, and then you have access to everything you have in your Google Drive. Just to quickly explain the screenshots that you're seeing, the top image shows you the editing platform with the template open. So it's a simple matter of taking each item from the bundle that you had, copy the URL, and then you paste it into the appropriate search box. So there on the right you see, you probably can't see it real well, but there's a YouTube button, and there's a Google Drive, there's Dropbox, there's one that's for just a URL for a website that you want to include. There's lots of different options there along the right-hand side. So you just click on the right type of content, paste the URL in, and then you can drag it into the appropriate section of your lesson. So it's a pretty simple thing to do. In the end, you have something that looks like the bottom left picture, which allows teachers or students to jump to whatever resource that they need, or you can play the slideshow like you would a PowerPoint and go through the components sequentially, and it's interactive, of course. Students can open websites and interact with that and then close it, and they're back on the BlendSpace. To get the collection to students, you'll need to use their share button where you find a link as well as embed codes. It even gives you a QR code that you can use to share that out, or there's social network sharing options as well. We've taken the link to our BlendSpaces and put them into a Symbaloo collection that students can access easily on their devices so that they can get to the collections that they need to for their lesson. So there's kind of a quick overview of BlendSpace. Mary, if you'll go on, we'll talk about Nearpod. Okay, so I have kind of fallen in love with Nearpod. I'm a little obsessed with it, actually. I think this is an incredible tool that not only collects all of those same types of resources that we had in a My Big Campus bundle, but it gives teachers some really great ways to really make sure every student is engaged and get them interacting and staying along with the lesson. So I'm going to just jump right into some of those reasons that I love it. Nearpod allows you to get the students connected with just a simple code. There's no student logins or anything. You don't even have to share out a link. They just go to nearpod.com from absolutely any device, and they put in a 5-digit code. You can see a little screenshot of that at the top of the screen. I'm convinced that they have a huge team of educators on their staff because that 5-digit code is always letters, there's no numbers, and it's always in all caps. So you don't have any of this confusion, is that a 1 or an L or, you know, any of that 0 or an O, you know, those kind of things that happen when we try to get kids to get someplace. So they're instantly connected. The other great thing is that you have the option of a live session or a homework session. In a live session, the teacher is controlling. Once the students put in that code, they're connected to the teacher. And as a teacher, you push out the content you want the students to have when you want them to have it, and it all shows up on their screen. So as you're teaching the lesson, you can push out a website, have the kids interact with it for a certain amount of time, and then you push out the next website or the next video that you want to use. So it just makes the entire lesson so much more engaging. As you're looking over the options on the right side of the slide there that show you the types of content that you can include in a Nearpod, probably catches your attention that you can include questions. They call them activities. And there are several different types that you can include in your Nearpod. So you can push out a multiple choice quiz to the students and have them answer those questions and submit their responses. The one that says drawing, that allows students to annotate on their screen, or they can type in text, but whether it's with a stylus or the mouse or typing in text, they can annotate in all kinds of different ways on that screen. You can give them a blank screen to do that, or you can push out to them an image or a PDF that they're marking on and submitting their response. So lots of great options there. That's something that we don't have in BlendSpace, but a great way for you to include some sort of check for understanding or assessment option in your collection as well. Okay, if you will go to the next slide, Mary. I'm almost done. Just want to show you quickly kind of how we get from one to the other. And I just, well, of course, I'm a pretty big nerd, so usually I have more than one screen. So I'll put my bundle on one screen and my Nearpod or my BlendSpace template on another screen. Or you can do a split screen sort of situation like this. And it's a simple matter of, you know, clicking on that Brain Pop video from the My Big Campus bundle, getting the URL, and then pasting it into the new tool that we're using. It's just a quick back and forth copy and paste. I've been timing myself here recently when I've been helping teachers do this, and of course I've had a lot of practice, but I can completely create a BlendSpace or a Nearpod of a My Big Campus bundle in about 5 minutes. So we really were looking for something that would allow us to export from My Big Campus and import into something else. But, you know, the things that I tried, I felt like I was spending way more than 5 minutes trying to tweak the formatting and get it to be the way we really wanted it to be. In the end, we decided that this was just as easy, and it gave us some new features that we didn't have before that we have grown to really love. So if you go to the last slide I have, Mary. I just wanted to do the same as Amanda and let you know that I do have some resources on this on my YouTube channel. If you go there, there is a playlist. It doesn't have a lot of videos in it right now, but there is a playlist for curating digital content, and it has in there videos for converting My Big Campus bundles to BlendSpace as well as to Nearpod. And that would also be a means that you could contact me as well. So if you go to YouTube, you'll just search for Mrs. Porter DCIS down there in the bottom corner of the screen, and hopefully you'll be able to find my channel and we can interact there. All right, Molly, I'll let you turn it over to Jeff.
Great. Thank you so much, Rachel. That's just a great alternative. And I know BlendSpace and Nearpod are pretty popular along with Google Sites. And I actually posted the link to the BlendSpace quality template for those that were interested in that, as well as a template inside of Docs if you're interested in kind of the formatting that we've used in the past. Or a lot of times it's good for teachers that are kind of getting started. They just kind of need that example. They need that template to fill in, and then they kind of get the hang of it and don't need to follow along anymore. But so although, you know, we obviously want to get all the content that we've already curated inside of My Big Campus out, I think it's also probably a good idea as we're exporting stuff out and revisiting lessons, you know, that we made 2-3 years ago, that we, you know, check and make sure everything's still working, and links, and that we have properly given credit where credit is due. I think we're all becoming more aware of copyright and sharing and you know, making sure that we are citing things properly. So I'd encourage you to take a look at your content and make sure that you're sharing it properly. So in order to help us with that, we have Jeff. And Jeff, you could even give a little bit of background on how you know so much about this area. That would be helpful as well. Thank you.
Okay. Just a little background. I teach U.S. history at a small rural school here in Indiana, northern Indiana. But prior to that life, I spent 20 years in computer consulting, and I've written a couple books. And so copyright and copyright law has been an interest of mine. I'm not a lawyer, but I've watched Law and Order enough, so you know, maybe that'll count. But I wanted to go through sort of the idea of copyright and copyright law from a modeling perspective. And when you're curating content, it's one of the important things that I think sometimes we don't think about. And so I wanted to go through a little bit about what is copyrighted, especially online, and how does that play a role in the materials that we produce. So we go to the first slide. Just some quick facts about copyrights. First, it applies to anything visual, audio, print, and design. So pretty much anything that is online is copyrightable. And a copyright starts whenever the author feels like his copyright starts. There is no set time. There is no I'm complete. It's just whenever the producer of the content says, I'm ready and I'm done. Even intermediate process is copyrightable. You don't always need that little C on the end to indicate that it's a copywritten material. It is automatic. And the big key a lot of people don't understand is the copyright holder is responsible to protect their own copyright. With the exception of music and movies where they hire a third-party company that does that for them, all copyrights are typically kept track of by the person that's produced the product. And that's what makes it really difficult. There isn't a database to go to find out if something is has a copyright applied to it and who might own the copyright. So that makes the whole process a little bit complex. You go to the next one. Can you change the slide to the next one? And then, okay, how will I know if I'm violating a copyright? That's really the big question I have a lot of my teachers ask. So I've come up with sort of a litmus test. The first is, unless it's specified, everything on the internet has a copyright associated with it. So unless they indicate it's public domain, which we'll talk just briefly about that, or under Creative Commons, any content you get off of the internet is under the copyright of the producer of it. And ultimately it comes down to this, is that can the owner of the copyright or the owner of the material you use prove in court that they're losing some kind of money through the use of it. And so that's really what it comes down to with any information you use, is especially if they're charging for it, are you limiting their ability to charge for it the way you are using it? And that's really sort of the main piece associated with it. Go to the next slide. In the copyright law, they indicate a concept called fair use. And fair use is sort of that idea that there are some significant limitations to copyright holders' exclusive rights. One of those is in the use of education and educational material for copyright. There is no, it's not really a science, so it isn't the same every single time, and it depends on how the holder of the copyright wishes to apply it. So you do have some ability in educational encounter to use some material, and we'll go through just a few of those to kind of give you some ideas. Go to the next slide. Some of the things you can use, movie clips. Typically one scene is considered acceptable. In most cases, a movie cannot be used in its entirety. I know that goes against what a lot of people typically do. Some of the things that you especially can't use a movie for is like as a reward. You read the book, now we'll watch the movie. That is typically not protected under the Fair Use Clause. But movie clips is a great way to add things, especially I teach history. There are way too many history movies that you can use movie clips for. Music and art, you can use and copy as much as you want as long as it is the object you're analyzing. So if you are criticizing a painting or a piece of music and taking it apart and analyzing the words that it says or whatever it may be, that is okay to use under the Fair Use Clause. The other thing you can do is small duplicated portions of printed material, typically a chapter or less, and you can use that as part of your material as you are curating content. Next slide. Now, one of the things that you can do is start looking for material that isn't under copyright. The first way to do that is to look for material that is in public domain. What public domain is creators have decided that that content is available for public use however you so choose you want to use it. So if you go to Bing or Google, you can do a search, and if I'm looking for an image, I can go to images.bing.com, and one of the drop-downs, as I show on the screenshot there, is you can pick what license type those are. And if you choose public domain, you will get all images that are 100% in the public domain. No copyright issues associated with it. Go to the next one. To give you an idea of what goes in public domain and what doesn't, works produced after 1922, but before 1978 are protected for 95 years from the date of publication. So this includes books. This includes, I use a lot of primary sources in history, so a lot of those are not under copyright anymore because they fall outside of that 95 years. If it's before 1978, the copyright lasts for the life of the author, so whoever produced it, plus 70 years. So that'll give you somewhat of an idea. I've had pretty good luck asking people if I can use copywritten material just by emailing them and asking them if I can use them for an educational project. Or, and I get emails back, and in a few cases I've had people ask to Skype with us as a class so that I was able to get some extra information that the students weren't able to get just by reading it. Go to the next one. The next main thing that has been created as sort of an alternate to the copyright is what's called Creative Commons. Creative Commons are for people that want to go out of their way to say, you know what, I don't mind that you use my image, or I don't mind that you use this lesson plan. And there's a set of icons that indicate the different ways you can use it. So for example, the first one in the top left with a little person on it says this is a Creative Commons protection, and you can use it however you want. You just have to indicate where you got it. And so each one has different kinds of things. For example, there's one that has the no dollar sign in it. So you can use it whatever you want, but you can't make money on it. The next one with the equal sign says you can do it whatever you want, but you can't derive it. So I can't take bits and pieces of it and make it my own. You need to use it in its entirety. And so that is sort of an alternative to try and make it easier to navigate the copyright confusion. And so there are many search engines that support Creative Commons. For example, Images Google, Images Bing. There are also a Creative Commons search engine, which I will show you at the end, the URL for it. Go to the next one. When in doubt, always provide attribution of where you got something from. Creative Commons requires it. If they say attribute it to me, public domain does not, but it doesn't hurt, and even copywritten material. It does not hurt to give specifically where it came from and give that credit. There are some standards to do it. The standard I showed you is specifically the standard that they give you for Creative Commons, which is very similar to the way you do like an MLA listing in an English report, as an example. Next one. This is the original, this is the derived picture. So notice how it just went to black and white. So it actually says on there where the image came from, and I derived it, and this is what I derived it for. And so those are things that will help that to happen. The same thing you want to model when you produce stuff for your class is the same stuff you want students to then do. I saw somebody mention about EasyBib. It's a perfect example of having students add attributions to where they get information from. It's an important source for them or important thing for them to be able to do and accomplish. Go to the next one. When in doubt, ask for permissions. I always give the example, I like to use we were talking about consumerism in our current events class, and so I found a YouTube video about a guy by the name of Reverend Billy, and he has a whole series of YouTube videos about consumerism, I ended up emailing him to ask him if it was okay if I'd use his materials in class, and he responded back, would it be okay if I Skyped with the students? So we actually had a Skype with him, and they were able to see him and hear from him and ask him questions, and it was a great add-on just for doing nothing more than asking for permission, encouraged some extra involvement that I would not have normally been able to achieve. Go to the last one. Here are some of the resources, and this is on the presentation. The Creative Commons search engine was created a few years ago to search everything that people have registered that's in the Creative Commons. If you're looking for images, PhotoPin has probably the largest indexed repository of Creative Commons images that you want to use. One of the ones I like to use, especially for primary sources, if you go to books.google.com, you can query any print material that has gone into the public domain from there. So if you're looking for a chapter from a book that's no longer available or out of print, that is a good place to be able to look at and get some information for that. As I mentioned also, imagesgoogle.com, imagesbing.com have the ability to turn on a license. Music has been the biggest one, the biggest struggle. You know, you ask kids to produce a presentation and you ask them to put music behind it. Well, technically they can't use the music they like. There are a few Creative Commons music libraries, this one creativecommonsmusic.org being one of the most prevalent, that you can put music that then is supported under the Creative Commons licenses so you're not violating copyrights by using it. So that is a little bit about when you curate content and how to make sure you pay attention to and look at copyrights and their importance as it plays in the materials you produce. So we'll hand it back to Molly.
Great, thank you, Jeff. We appreciate that. And I think it's just something that we all kind of need a refresher on, and you know, to always have in the back of our minds as we're quickly sharing images and links and songs and things like that. That we need to make sure that we're being responsible users, because if we're not, then our students definitely aren't going to be as well. So, thank you. Did Amanda or Rachel have anything else to add with regard to their topic, or Jeff, before we go into Q&A?
I don't think so. Bring on the questions.
All right. So we've had a couple in the chat bar, but any other questions that the folks in the audience have that we could address here as a group? And if you're not comfortable asking here, you can always email us individually or tweet to us. We can, I know it was on the first slide, but we can go ahead and type in our school email. So if you want to contact us, I'll give you just a minute. Jeff, did you see the question, if we produce an end-of-the-year video, can we use partial songs under fair use, or does that fall under a sync law?
It depends on where you put the video you produce. And so you have a lot of complexity there, and who's your audience for your group, for your video. So we look specifically, if you put music on a video that you're going to have all your students then consume in the evening, let's say, and take a look at. It gets complicated. If you put a song on it, is that going to prevent the person from buying that piece of music in the future? Probably not. So, you know, as long as a litmus test goes, yes, you're probably being illegal, but are you hurting that person's revenue stream? You probably wouldn't lose, but that's one of those gray areas that gets really complicated on whether that falls under fair use or not. And there are cases where movies are the #1 legal case that hits education. Music has not been as much traditionally. It's movies, video clips, TV shows. I can't even record the news and show it in class under fair use, as an example. So that's where that gets a little weird.
Hey, Jeff, I have a question for you. What about screenshots? Obviously, I use them a lot. I had tons of them in my presentation.
It depends. I mean, you're probably not, again, hurting their revenue. All you're doing is giving the initial part of it, so you're not using it for any value other than reference, so that's probably okay. Again, most of what I've seen, all the lawsuits that I have identified as copying whole books or multiple chapters out of a book and showing full movies are the two biggest things that get people in trouble.
Yeah. Well, and I know with so many people moving away from textbooks and using, you know, maybe just classroom sets or having copies that the teacher, you know, I often hear people say, well, I'll just make a copy of that chapter or of that section, you know, make it a PDF, scan it, and then share it digitally, you know, making sure that we're not copying whole books and sections. But then also, how does it work, Jeff, with regard to, let's say we do have teachers that have textbooks in the classroom, but they want digital versions for their students. I have known people to copy, let's say, the entire book and then share sections at a time, and they share one or two and then take it away and then share new ones, so it doesn't look as if like a
look at it this way. You're hurting the revenue of the book vendor because they'd love to sell you electronic copies of the book.
Yeah, the electronic copy, yes.
So that's a direct violation. Although I have not seen any lawsuits, at least in Indiana, associated with that, that doesn't mean there aren't.
Yeah. And how do you stay up to date on kind of what people are getting in trouble for? Just for the news, or, I mean?
Oh, no, I spend way too much time looking at legal databases and legal news.
Okay. Well, we're glad that you are, so you can keep us up to date. So, like I always tell my students, and I mentioned, always oversight, overshare, because that's not going to get you in trouble. Now, I know one question, Jeff, that a lot of people ask at our workshops is, what if I cite a picture and I just provide a link to the, you know, the URL where I found it, or, you know, I share an article and I provide the link to where I got it? Is that enough, Jeff?
Yeah, well, if you just put the link on your document and they click on it and they see it within the context from that site, you are perfectly valid then, because you don't hold that content.
You're just sending them there.
They still hold it.
Yeah.
The question you run into sometimes is when you, let's say, send somebody to watch a YouTube clip, and let's say the YouTube clip is not legal? Are you still responsible? And that's going to be, that's the big issue. Right now, everybody's holding YouTube responsible because that's where the money is. But I don't know long-term what will happen there.
Gotcha. And
but
what
you're
about
best giving them a link to go to as opposed to you downloading it and sticking it in a presentation, as an example. I do that with music all the time.
You do? So you actually just take them out to that site then where you first found it?
Yeah, like when we do the 60s, I like them to listen to, 4 or 5 different 60s songs. So I send them to the actual websites of the musicians where they put up their own videos so that I'm not responsible.
Yeah. And if I have a Google slide presentation and I just want to stick an image that I just got off Google search, am I clear if I just put the URL there and say, image from?
Yeah, most of the time you probably are. You're not going to, again, you're probably not hurting their revenue. They're only going to sue you. That's the only recourse they have is suing you. They're going to sue you. Yeah. They can only win if they're going to lose revenue and prove it.
Gotcha. Okay. Just some really practical things I think a lot of us do when we want to, we're creating a PowerPoint or something, or we want a good visual image to go with, the topic in our class. We just need to be mindful of that. Any other questions? Just a great resource if you have copyright questions. If not, we can go ahead and close out a few minutes early. And Jeff, is your email address, was that shared in the chat box?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. And for those that are interested, if you wanted to share this with your colleagues, this webinar will be archived and will be linked on our site, our IDOE website. All right. Mary, do you have anything to close out?
I don't. I just want to say a big thank you to you, Molly, for helping get this webinar organized, and to Amanda, Rachel, and Jeff for a lot of great information. Again, we have really great resources in this state, little gems, and it's fun to be able to find them, to find you all, and share out what you all know. So thank you for taking an hour of your day, plus the prep time, to do this. And like Molly said, I am recording this, fingers crossed. It all went well, especially with me getting disconnected earlier. But we do have a YouTube channel, and I post our webinars there, and I hope to have that posted. I will be at HEC the rest of this week at the HEC conference, so I hope to have that posted by the end of next week. I will also send out your PGP documentation for your point for this webinar, for participating in this webinar. And all of our contact information, different ways to connect with us, are here on this page. Also, Molly asked if I could get this presentation out to you all so that you would have the link. So I will try to send that out tomorrow or Thursday when I'm able to download the list of you all who have attended the webinar. So definitely, if you are at HEC this week, please stop by our booth and say hi. Hopefully a lot of you will get to go and make some connections, or just continue to connect with us and other educators through Twitter and all the other different means of connections. So thank you all very much, and have a wonderful evening and rest of your week.